Good evening, everyone. Thank you all for being here tonight. We will get started at about 2 minutes past 8 p.m. Eastern Time. So about 8:02 is when we will get started. All right, everyone, good evening and welcome to tonight's webinar. I am excited to be spending the next 45 minutes to an hour with you all, talking about recruiting virtually, what you need to know to be successful with virtual recruitment. My name's Hayden Rahn, and I serve as the Expansion and Development Director for Delta Upsilon International Fraternity Headquarters. Graduated, a little bit about myself, graduated from the University of Oregon in 2016, and then directly after graduation, started on the Delta Upsilon staff. I've been on staff since 2016, the 1 year as a consultant, and then the past almost 3 years as the Expansion and Development Director. I'd also like to say I hope everyone is healthy, both you and your families. So really appreciate you taking the time, but again, want to just reiterate that I hope everyone is staying healthy, both you personally and your families. Like I said, really excited to be spending the next 45 minutes to an hour with you all, talking about virtual recruitment. I think starting this webinar off with a little bit about my experience thinking about virtual recruitment and then transitioning into the webinar. So about 4 weeks ago, when really COVID-19 took form, it really, I think for everyone, forced us to really start thinking about what we could do virtually. And for us as a staff, trying to understand what that meant for our chapters and our chapter operations. And part of that, of course, is recruitment. And I would be lying to you if I said that I thought it was going to be super easy to think about how to recruit virtually. But initially, sorry, my dog in the background, but initially it's one of those things where I didn't really know what to expect. And I wasn't too sure about what virtual recruitment was going to look like. And after kind of really putting some thought into it, talking with certain staff members, reading different articles, listening in on certain webinars, talking with colleagues within the industry, I started to get a good grasp around what virtual recruitment was going to look like and what we needed to provide our chapter and colony members and advisors to help them understand how they can be successful with virtual recruitment as well. I think the first thing that comes to mind when I think about virtual recruitment is I have to go back to just the foundation of recruitment and remember what recruitment is all about. And that is, recruitment is all about the relationships that are built and this idea that people join people. And while that might not look the same in a virtual recruitment setting, it's still 100% possible. It's still 100% possible to build relationships. It's still 100% possible to have in-depth good conversations with potential new members. And in a time of uncertainty, a lot of people, especially potential new members, are looking to build those relationships. And so I think it's always important and really good to remember is moving forward, no matter whether it's virtual recruitment or in-person recruitment, it's all about the relationships that we're building and that people are joining people. And in my conversations with colleagues in the webinars and articles that I was reading, in conversations with undergraduates, that really was a common theme. And so I think it's important as you all, as chapter members and colony members and as advisors, to really remember that people join people and recruitment are all about the relationships that we are building and how are we allowing for those relationships to grow. And how are we allowing for those relationships to grow through the Delta Upsilon experience? So tonight, I'm going to be covering 6 different, topics as it relates to virtual recruitment. 6 topics that, when thinking about recruitment, makes a lot of sense, and I think important for us to think about, and important for chapters and colonies and advisors to really think about. Those include recruitment committee and how are we moving forward in a virtual way? How are we building a names list and getting more PNM referrals through virtual recruitment? What are those different avenues, especially now that maybe we're not able to meet guys on campus? I know campuses have transitioned their orientation sessions to virtual orientation sessions, and that's going to look a little bit different. So what are we doing to build that names list? The third is outreach to potential new members. What does outreach look like? What does effective outreach look like? How are we utilizing social media more when it comes to that outreach? The fourth is PNM engagement and activities. So of course, we can have the PNM, we know the PNM, but what are we doing to actually engage with the PNM? The fifth would be parent engagement. So especially during this time, we found that it's incredibly important to think about how are we engaging parents? What is that conversation that we potentially are having or the information that we're sharing with parents around our recruitment process, around the Delta Upsilon experience, around the chapter colony experience. So we'll dive a little bit into that. And then the last is bid extension and follow-up. So how are we extending bids? How are we making that moment memorable? And what's the follow-up piece through all of this? So really, to dive in, we'll start with the recruitment committee. So in any good recruitment, no matter if it's in person or in this case, a virtual recruitment, a recruitment committee is going to be incredibly key to the success of that recruitment. Of course, it's a group of members who are there to support the vice president of recruitment. They're there to help take on roles and responsibilities and put in some of that work to help the recruitment be successful. And of course, during virtual recruitment, this is maybe even more important because there's so much going on as it relates to the chapter equality. So I think the first big key point is no matter what, although you're not together on the recruitment committee meetings still need to be consistent, they need to be weekly, and they need to be virtual if possible. So they need to be via Zoom, they need to be via Google Hangout. Totally can have a phone call if that's what works, but having that face-to-face interaction with other recruitment committee members is incredibly important as you all work through this time and understanding what virtual recruitment looks like for your chapter colony. This is an opportunity, of course, for the committee to update goals, plans, delegate responsibilities, update PNM status, have conversations centered around what are we doing to engage PNMs virtually, what are we doing to adjust our plans to a virtual recruitment. There's a lot that can be talked about, a lot that can happen within the recruitment committee setting. And I think there's at least three, but way more questions that can be posed during these meetings on a weekly basis. The first one is, how can our current plans be adjusted to fit into virtual recruitment, or even how can our future recruitment plans fit into virtual recruitment, right? So how are we adjusting those to allow for virtual recruitment to be successful? For example, if we are inviting alumni to an alumni event, or if we allow for PNMs to go grab dinner with an alumni or an advisor, could we adjust that and allow for those alumni to virtually meet the PNMs? Will alumni be open to possibly making phone calls and talking with PNMs that we're interested in? What about just regular hangouts? Typically we have dinners or maybe go to Topgolf, but maybe we have to transition that into more of video games or just hangouts over Zoom or Google Hangout. All things which we'll talk about a little bit later, but a very good question and thing to ask as a committee to understand how can we adjust our plans to fit into virtual recruitment. The second question I think that's really important is, how are we going to engage PNM virtually in order for us to build relationships? Yeah, it's super easy to set up a phone call. It's incredibly easy to set up FaceTime. It's easy to set up a one-on-one meeting, but what more can we do to engage PNMs virtually to build that relationship? What are we doing to take advantage of social media? What are we doing to take advantage of those social media challenges that are out there, right? What are we doing to engage with PNMs to allow for them to understand who we are, understand who they are, and really build a solid relationship with them? And lastly, what do we need to do that we don't currently have or what do we need that we don't currently have for us to be successful? Don't know why that was such a tongue twister, but it was. And then second, as a follow-up to that, how do we go about getting what we need? So when we think about, and then when you all are thinking about this as a committee, what are the things that you need that you all don't currently have to be successful, specifically related to virtual recruitment? Or maybe what are things we could need that would make us be successful? And so that's a question to ask. And then it's, how do we go about getting what we need? Do we need to ask the alumni? Do we need to set up a recruitment coaching session with DU staff member? Do we need to reach out to our chapter liaison? Do we have to follow up with our IFC VP of recruitment? Do we need to talk to our fraternity and sorority life advisor on campus? Do we need to look at our budget and see where we can spend money that we otherwise would have been spending on maybe dinners or Topgolf or certain larger recruitment events? So it's really diving into what's our plan, how are we building relationships, and then what don't we have that we need that will make us successful, and then what do we need to do to go get what we need? Now, again, I think those are just a handful or 3-4 questions that the recruitment committee can start asking themselves, but there's a ton more out there. And I'm sure that you all might have some questions that you're already asking yourselves as a recruitment committee or as a chapter or colony that I think could be incredibly beneficial. The second piece is building a names list and building a PNMs list and getting referrals and understanding that the more names we have, the more guys we have to recruit. And so I think a very easy, actionable item to begin with, and most of you have probably heard this already, whether it be from your IFC, whether it be from something you read or listened to, whether it be from us at headquarters, is asking members to provide those referrals. Your best referral base is your membership. They know non-affiliated DUs. They're going to know guys coming in from high school. They have relationships with guys. And so allowing for them to provide those referrals are going to be the first key step, right? So tap into the guys that you already have. And if everyone in your chapter provides 1 to 3 referrals, that's already a good start to build off of. The second one, I think, is tap into alumni asking for referrals. And it's not just chapter-specific alumni or colony-specific alumni, but try to extend that search or try to extend that outreach. And we're more than happy to, at IHQ, help you with that communication, extending that outreach. Reach out to us and say, hey, we want to pull a radius list of every alumni within a 60-mile radius of our campus or of our chapter. Can you help us pull that list and get some communication out asking for referrals of PNMs? Because alumni, of course, are connected to communities. They may be connected to certain high schools. They may have relationships that you don't have. And so just asking them and allowing for them to provide you those referrals is incredibly helpful. It's something we do on expansion all the time, and alumni are more than happy most of the time to provide those referrals and allow for you all to be successful by providing those referrals. And again, I think just going back to it, extend that search and allow for us at IHQ to help you get that radius list and then pull that list and help with that communication. I think other ways and other referral groups that we've thought of and know can be incredibly helpful are parents, asking parents. They may know people, they may have friends who have sons who are coming to the university. Again, they may be connected to high schools or different organizations or different groups of people that may be coming to high school. So asking parents for those referrals, asking your non-DU friends. So whether these are friends in clubs or organizations you're a part of, whether they're sorority friends, whether they're just classmates, asking those non-DU friends, who do you know? You know the type of individual that we want in our chapter or colony. Who are those guys that you can refer that we can then go reach out to? The third one is ask university staff and offices. Clearly, I'm sure for most of you, if not all of you, you're already in communication with your fraternity and sorority life office and your IFC on, do they provide a list of incoming students or incoming men that you could reach out to, whether it be all incoming men or just men who've expressed interest. But it also doesn't hurt to reach out to the Office of Admissions, reach out to housing, reach out to orientation, reach out to these other university staffs and offices and explain to them what you're doing, explain to them the type of individual you're looking for. And they may not be able to provide a list to you, but they may be able to provide a couple names. They also may be able to be a future advisor, or you may be able to just build a really close relationship with that office or with that individual or staff member. That's going to allow for you to maybe have a partnership down the line. And as they meet students, they might be thinking in the back of their mind, hey, DU reached out to us. This person expressed interest in a fraternity. I have this chapter president's or colony president's information. I'm going to pass that along to that student. So it doesn't hurt. And I think it's just another kind of avenue or group of individuals that you can reach out to on your campus. And then I think the last thing is reach out to old high school teachers, coaches, anything like that. Clearly, they might know students. You might have a really good relationship with them. So if members are reaching out to those connections, again, you might be able to find a handful or a good amount of referrals that are going to continue to build your names list. So I think this is one where we have to be a little bit more creative. We have to be a little bit more innovative. We have to think about what are other areas or groups of people we can ask, knowing that referral groups are typically there when it comes to maybe orientation or on-campus events. And so because those might not be happening for your campus, how are you reaching out to alumni, members, parents, non-DU friends, old high school teachers or coaches, other university staffs and offices to get those referrals there for your names list? So you've had your recruitment committee meetings, you're starting to build your names list, and next we need to talk about how are we outreaching to PNMs virtually. So when you're outreaching to PNMs, and really in general, thinking, you always have to go back to, during a normal recruitment period, you all are already virtually reaching out to PNMs. You're already texting them, you're already following them through social media. You may be in a Snapchat message group, you may be in a group chat, whatever the case is, as you all probably experience, like, we have to get them out to our events anyway, so you're already doing some sort of virtual outreach. It's just going to be full virtual outreach from now on. And so the first big key point is send personalized individual text to each PNM. Do not send group text of PNMs explaining that, hey, we're interested, or hey guys, this is Hayden from the Oregon chapter. We are still recruiting, would love to get to know you a little bit more. It's not personalized. It doesn't build a good relationship. And so PNMs are going to feel that. Even just this generation of student we see is going to feel that. And so sending those personalized individual texts to each PNM is going to be incredibly helpful in that outreach piece and starting to build that relationship virtually. The second piece is being consistent with outreach and really make it about building the relationship. In the colleagues that I've talked to, and the webinars I've been a part of, and even the undergraduates I've had the opportunity to meet with to talk about recruitment so far, they've all expressed that they've been the most successful when they've come from a place of, hope you're healthy, how are you dealing with everything, what has life looked like for you? They're coming from a place of, I want to build a relationship with you and have a conversation with you prior to just saying, hey, are you interested in Delta Upsilon fraternity, right? And so really coming from a place of care and asking how they are and asking, how life has been in kind of this quarantine, self-isolation, how's online classes been? That's going to be incredibly important to building that relationship. And I think being consistent with that communication as well. Have the understanding that students might not get back to you the first time, having the understanding that it might take a couple tries, but being consistent with that and helping them understand that you want to build that relationship. Again, personalized individual texts are going to be incredibly key to that consistent relationship building. The third piece is use social media to your advantage. Everyone is on social media, and what I've told the undergraduates that I've talked to already about this is everyone now is at home and they're with mom and dad and they're just flipping through Instagram, Twitter, maybe Facebook, Snapchat, now TikTok. I just downloaded TikTok, spent a lot of time on it, so for probably the worst. I was very reluctant to download it, but I know that a lot of people are on TikTok. They're on these social media platforms. And so how are we as chapters taking that and using it to our advantage, right? So when a PNM follows the chapter account on Instagram, making sure that the chapter account follows back the PNM and then sending a personalized direct message to that PNM, introducing themselves, kind of just like building that relationship, right? So kind of that follow for follow, right? So if PNM follows the chapter is going to follow back, right? If the chapter knows that there are PNMs out there maybe on their list, why don't the chapter go and follow the PNMs to begin with? Don't put that initial follow on the PNMs there and then sending that direct message. There had been conversations, and I heard this on a webinar through our friends at Fired Up Productions, of start buying paid ads and targeted ads towards students if your budget allows you to, right? So you might not be spending money on some of those other recruitment events, and if you have the money, think about maybe spending some money on paid advertisement that you know PNMs are going to see, whether it's Instagram, whether it's Snapchat, whether it's Facebook. Maybe that's a way to use social media to your advantage during this time, knowing that students are on social media and flipping through that. So really utilize social media to your advantage, outreach to PNMs. I think this is a wonderful time for each chapter or colony to take a hard look at what kind of content are we providing on social media. Are we highlighting members? Are we interacting on social media on all the different platforms? Because the more interaction you have on social media, I think the better outreach and engagement you're going to have with PNMs as well. And I think a lot of chapters are seeing that or have seen that be successful for recruitment. And then the last one, I know it can be scary. As an expansion guy, I do it all the time. It was scary at first, but don't be afraid to cold call PNMs who haven't responded to your outreach. Sometimes a phone call is all it takes to get PNMs to set up a virtual meeting, to have a conversation. As we know, some PNMs or just people in general are bad with texting. They're bad with getting back to people. And there have been plenty of times in my experience even of where I haven't been able to get to a PNM and all it took was for me to pick up the phone, give them a call, and have a quick conversation and set up a time to meet. And so that's a great way to outreach to PNMs. Again, if we think about it, most people are just sitting around their house. So you may see a higher success rate when you call the PNMs. But again, I know it's scary, but don't be afraid to do it. Make that phone call and have that conversation with the PNM there. So that's the outreach piece to PNMs, especially during virtual recruitment. I will say a lot of the outreach is very similar to what you might see during a normal recruitment. I think the biggest piece here is really utilizing social media to your advantage and thinking about how are we as a chapter or colony utilizing social media to our advantage during this time. The next would be PNM engagement and activities. And here's where I think a lot of chapters and colonies and members and just people in general, and this is where I really kind of thought, well, how are we engaging PNMs and how are we actually going to have activities and get them to meet other members and understand if they actually fit in with the membership? I think the first one is having one-on-one virtual meetings with PNMs via Zoom, Google Hangout, Skype, FaceTime. So just like you would take a PNM out to lunch, a PNM out to dinner, whatever the case is, setting up a time for a one-on-one meeting, or maybe it's a handful of members in that PNM, maybe it's a couple PNMs and a handful of members there, really allowing for yourself to spend that one-on-one time engaging with the PNM there virtually. I was on the phone earlier today and yesterday with our Kansas State and Iowa State chapters, and that's something that they're doing currently. Something that they also do is they engage PNMs virtually through sending out emails with just information that the PNM and the parent might want to know, whether that's information regarding the chapter facility, it's information regarding just chapter expectation, finances, maybe accomplishments. And so they have found that that's a really good way to engage PNMs as well. I know the Kansas State chapter does info sessions via Zoom or virtually. So they'll walk through kind of an info session with the PNM to engage them just like they would in a meeting, but it's getting all the information out, answering questions, kind of that first step of engagement there to help the PNM understand, here's who we are as a chapter, here's who DU is as an organization, and then let's get to know you a little bit better as well, answer any questions, address any concerns there. So between those, the virtual meetings, we can't just continue to have one-on-one virtual meetings. We got to find a way to continue to engage PNMs. So invite PNMs to video game hangouts that you might be having with the chapter colony. Maybe you have a weekly brotherhood hangout that you have. So invite PNMs that way so that they can engage and meet brothers in that capacity. Maybe you're having study sessions weekly as brothers via Zoom, or maybe brothers are in the same classes. And so really, again, allowing for PNMs to engage in those activities, engage in getting to know other brothers. Great way to have them virtually be engaged, virtually have these activities, and virtually meet other members as well. And I think in this case too, like, ask your members, what are ways that we can engage PNMs, right? So ask membership, like, what are other ways virtually that we can allow for our PNMs to get to know you guys and for them to get to know the chapter. So don't be afraid to, send out a message to the chapter members or the colony members and ask, what can we be doing to engage PNMs virtually? I think this goes back to the recruitment committee question of what are we doing to build relationships? I think, a great question is, what's been successful for us as far as virtually engaging PNMs? What have been some of the challenges, and what are things that maybe we can tweak or adjust a little bit? The third piece is engaging with them on social media. So tag PNMs in posts that the colony or chapter might be having, challenge them to social media challenges. So obviously, to keep people kind of entertained during this whole COVID situation, is there been a ton of just social media challenges, whether it be like handstand challenges or push-up challenges, this or that type of challenge. I've seen like school bingo, like cross off all these things that you've done. And so I think a great way to engage PNMs is do that on social media, challenge them, have members challenge, right? Like, have a member do the push-up challenge and then tag 3 current members and 2 PNMs and encourage the PNM to take part in that challenge there. And so a great way, again, to use social media to your advantage, a great way to utilize what's already out there to engage PNMs in a different way. So that, I think, is a really awesome piece there. I think also with social media, a lot of member spotlights are good. So showing the PNM, like, who's our current membership, and whether that's a picture with kind of a blurb about a member, or have members make brother profile videos talking about their DU experience, or answering frequently asked questions that PNMs might be asking anyways, right? So who are a handful of brothers who can take some time to create videos that you all can post on social media and or send out to PNM and parents, talking about their most memorable DU experience? Why did they join DU? What's something that they're looking forward to in the chapter moving forward? What have been some of their favorite leadership opportunities or educational programs that they've attended, right? So ways, again, to engage PNMs, utilizing members, and utilizing that virtually as well. I think that's the fourth one. Yep, the fourth one is have alumni and advisors get involved. So kind of going back to the earlier point of, typically chapters and colonies are having alumni and advisors get involved, whether that's through dinners or an alumni event or whatever the case is. You can still do that. Talk to the alumni and talk to your advisors about hopping on a Zoom call with a PNM or a handful of PNMs. Talk to advisors or alumni advisors to talk to them about maybe creating a video themselves talking about their experience. Talk to alumni and advisors about calling PNMs that may want to have that conversation. I know if I was a high school senior sitting at home and I got a call and I was talking with DU and I was super engaged and I was curious about alumni engagement or advisor support, I got a phone call from a chapter or colony advisor, I would be really excited to have that conversation, knowing that that alumni advisor took the time out of their day to call me, answer my questions, get to know me. Like, that's a great way to engage with PNMs and a great way for them to talk and meet with more than just the chapter members, but also the other individuals who are involved with the chapter and supporting the chapter or colony. And then the last piece, virtual information sessions. So I talked about it earlier in the slide, creating some sort of information session or information PowerPoint or document that you're able to send PNMs or go through via Zoom with PNMs. If you have, if you're a housed facility or a housed chapter or colony, is there a way that you have pictures of the house that you're able to show the PNM to kind of help them understand, and maybe you can tell stories or kind of tell them, hey, this is what it's utilized for. So utilizing those virtual information sessions so that they can, again, get a better picture of what the chapter is like. You can address concerns, you can answer questions, everything that you would be doing in a normal recruitment or in-person recruitment, you can still do virtually. It's just going to look different. It's going to feel different, but it's definitely possible and definitely doable. So the second to last piece is parent engagement. We have to remember that parent engagement is going to be incredibly important during this time of COVID-19, during this time of virtual recruitment. I think really moving forward past that, because parents, I think now more than ever, are going to be concerned, not that they weren't before, but even more so concerned about their son's health and well-being, especially if they're going off to college, especially during a time where there's, the coronavirus and everything's happening. And so I think that's incredibly important for us to engage parents, or for chapters and colonies to engage parents in a positive way, build that relationship from the beginning. So I think one of the best ways to do that, and I know some chapters already do this really well, is sending chapter and colony information to parents via email or mail. That provides information about the chapter or colony. It reassures parents about the chapter's commitment to the well-being of their son and the safety of their son. It outlines the new member program, outlines expectations, whether that's member expectations, housing expectations, financial expectations. It gives the parent a good overview and the opportunity to really understand Delta Upsilon. Not saying that we can't provide that to the undergraduate and then they provide that to their parent, but what we have found and what I've seen is that the most effective way to do that is just directly to the parent. And that allows for the parent to then say, great, the chapter president or colony president, the vice president of recruitment, the alumni board, the main chapter advisor, whoever it was, personally reached out. I know who to contact. I know who to email. I know who to call if I have any questions or have any concerns. And so that's so much better than hoping or asking those undergraduates to pass along that information, because you are able to build an individualized connection and personal connection and relationship with those parents. I think the last piece, and probably again now more so than ever, is being open to having phone calls, virtual meetings, addressing just parent concerns and questions. And so I think talking as a recruitment committee, maybe with your fellow executive board members, with your alumni and advisors about, hey, if we get questions from parents, if we want to set up a phone call or a Zoom meeting, or there's an email, who would be the best to respond to that? Who would be the best to talk about that? Is it the chapter president? Is it the vice president of recruitment? Is it a combination? Is it the alumni and advisors? Who is that to address some of those concerns, and what's the best avenue for that? Are we calling them? Are we setting up a Zoom or virtual meeting? Are we emailing them? What does that look like specifically for us as we build and engage with parents? I will say with parent engagement as well is that, sorry, I blinked there. I will say with parent engagement as well is that there is going to be a good opportunity to maybe create, similar to videos that you would send PNMs, is maybe there's a short video that you're sending to parents. Again, having some of that personal interaction through a video is always nice, and maybe addressing some of those larger concerns or frequently asked questions that you typically know that chapters and colonies receive from parents about the experience, especially now that you're virtually recruiting. And then the last piece is bid extension and follow-up, right? So we've outreached to a PNM, we've had conversations with the PNM, we've engaged with the PNM, they know everything, we want them to join the chapter or colony, we want to extend them a bid. We can't extend them a bid in person yet, but we can do it virtually. So what does that actually look like? And so I think there's three big pieces here. The first one is anytime that you're extending a bid, especially if it's virtually, it should be done via Zoom, via Google Hangout, and not over the phone, unless that's the only way that you're able to do it. Because that makes the extension or the offering of the bid that much more personal than if it's just over the phone. Not that the phone's not personal, but being able to see each other and being able to see his reaction to getting a bid and him being able to see your excitement offering the bid is something I think that's going to be very memorable and the best practice for you all to do in a virtual recruitment setting. The follow-up to that then is sending that bid card to the PNM via mail. So send it to their home address, get their home address, say, hey, I'm going to send you the bid card. What's your home address? It's going to be signed by the president. Depending on how your chapter or colony does it, if the PNM signs his bid card, awesome, he'll sign it when he gets it. If you sign it or put his name on it, then you'll put his name on it, and you'll send that via mail. Now, with that bid card, treat that mailing as if it's an acceptance letter to a university or a college. That's the way I like to think about it, is add a letter from the chapter colony president or the VP of recruitment or the alumni advisors, like congratulating them, welcoming them, being excited that they received a bid. Maybe there's a letter directly to parents. If you have a chapter or colony newsletter or magazine, maybe you add that to the packet so they can flip through it and have that. Do you have any old quarterlies laying around? Maybe you can send them and kind of write a note, say, hey, here's our DU quarterly, our magazine. Take a look at kind of what DU's done in the past, and this is something that you can be a part of. Really getting them excited when they receive that packet. Write a personalized note. So something very personal to that PNM to show that you took the time to write that note, put it in the packet, combine all this information, and send it to the PNM to make that a memorable experience, because you're not having that experience in person, right? I think the other thing is if you have any chapter or colony swag or anything that you could give away to them, put that in there as well. So making that a very, very memorable experience. So when they receive it in the mail, they know what it is, but they also have all this other stuff that they can be looking forward to. Excuse me. And then the last piece is, as PNMs start to accept their bids, make sure to highlight them on social media, get a member profile of them, right? So congratulations to Hayden Rahn for accepting his bid into the Oregon chapter. Hayden's a freshman from Temecula, California. He was involved with varsity basketball, right? So getting the PNM out there on social media for other people to see, but then also for that PNM to feel special as well is really key. What I think that will also do, and this goes back to the engagement piece, is as you start highlighting PNMs who have accepted bids, PNMs who are following your page are going to see that, and they're going to say, oh, this is awesome. They're giving out bids like, oh, I met that guy on a virtual call or a virtual hangout. Maybe I'll reach out to him, but they're seeing that the chapter is still recruiting and recruiting successfully. So it might be able to engage PNMs in that way as well. Get all the PNMs who have accepted in a group chat and starting to talk together and getting to know each other. Maybe you set up weekly Zoom calls with them so they can start getting to know who's going to be in their new member or associate member class, start having those conversations. I know a couple of the groups that I've talked to so far when it comes to recruitment or virtual recruitment is they're talking about getting the PNM to then be involved in the process. So having the PNM help the chapter and help the recruitment team with conversations with other PNMs. And so having that PNM who's accepted his bid share his experience and why he joined and what that looked like, and helping then build that relationship. That I think is another piece of engagement. I talked earlier today with our Iowa State guys about how that can help PNMs feel more engaged and have an active role in recruitment, in virtual recruitment, so that they don't accept their bid, on January 20th, or not January, June 20th. They don't accept their bid on June 20th and then don't really do much until the fall, but they're staying engaged and they're staying interested and they're helping with the follow-up and they're helping with the conversations. So I think with this one, make the bid extension as memorable as possible. Make sure it's done virtually. Send that packet out, highlight those PNMs, and follow up through social media, through group chats, through other PNMs, through other members, whatever the case may be. So I think there's a couple other additional resources and support that Delta Upsilon's providing, and that we as a staff have created and will continue to provide. The first one is the virtual recruitment resources, which can be found under the VP of Recruitment section on the chapter resources page of the DU website. So there's the link right there, so you can take a picture. Super easy to find, but I believe there's 8 different resources which cover different topics, all of which we have a resource for every topic that we covered in today's webinar, and it goes a little bit more in depth there to help chapters and colonies kind of frame virtual recruitment. So definitely encourage you all to check those resources out. Also encourage you all to sign up for a recruitment coaching session. So this is something that is brand new as of really the past couple weeks that we have started or are starting to do. And so chapters and colonies can request a one-on-one recruitment coaching session with a DU staff member. The DU staff member will set up the time with whether it be the VP of Recruitment, the recruitment committee, an alumni or advisor, maybe it's a combination of people, and spend a dedicated amount of time. So, if they need to spend, an hour together, they'll spend an hour together. If they need to spend 90 minutes together, they'll spend 90 minutes together. And they are really going to dive into chapter's recruitment goals, recruitment planning, maybe some challenges or concerns or issues that the chapter has faced, maybe potential challenges. And so we really wanted to provide an opportunity specifically for recruitment for chapters and colonies to sign up and have very tailored one-on-one time with a Delta Upsilon staff member. So if you are interested, whether you are an undergraduate or even an alumni advisor, you can either fill out the request form, which is the link is right there, or you can shoot me an email, rahn@deltau.org, and we can get a time set up for that coaching session there. So already had a couple coaching sessions, have 1 or 2 more scheduled, so really looking forward to continuing that and highly encourage you all to think about requesting that and signing up for one, because we'd love to sit down and talk with you about recruitment and how we can be of assistance and support. The last one I didn't put on here, and I think good to note, is starting later this semester, we will be sending out bi-monthly recruitment blogs. So that's just another way for us to provide information and resources to chapters and colonies and advisors. Those will be sent every 2 weeks. And everyone will be maybe on a different topic. Maybe they'll include different articles or webinars or podcasts. They may be involving some personal chapter experiences. So chapters having the opportunity to share what their experience has been like with recruitment or virtual recruitment. And so another way to just engage and provide opportunity, provide support, provide some more resources for recruitment moving forward. So those are the 3 big ones. I think we're continuing to kind of think about, talk about, understand, and develop resources for chapters and colonies. I will always say if there's any ideas, thoughts, things that come up with your chapter or colony, or as you're working with a chapter or colony, please feel free to reach out to me so we can have that conversation and maybe develop something that's going to help other chapters and colonies as well. So I'll turn it over some questions. I probably should have went through this at the very beginning, but I was just so excited to get started that I totally forgot, so my apologies. But if you do have any questions, there is a question, should be a question box that you can type those in. So I'm going to give just a couple of minutes and see if any questions come through, and I'll be happy to answer those for you. And if not, we'll kind of go and end the webinar. So we'll see if any questions come through here. All right, so it doesn't look like we have any, if I'm looking at this correctly. Maybe we do. We do not, which is not a problem. If there are any questions or if anything comes up, please, again, reach out to me. Both have my email and my phone number. So my email being ron@deltu.org, and I always provide my cell phone number to every session or webinar that I do, especially to undergraduates. So please, if you have any questions, feel free to email me, feel free to shoot me a text, feel free to give me a call. Want to be a resource, want to make sure helping out as much as I can. So there's my contact information. If you want a copy of these slides, feel free to email me. Happy to send those out as well. This recording will also be put up on the Delta Upsilon website. So if you want to reference it or send this along to any other of your chapter brothers or colony brothers or any other advisors or alumni, feel free to do that. But once again, just want to thank you all for taking the time tonight to listen to me talk about virtual recruitment. Hopefully this was incredibly helpful to help you all kind of plan and think about what that looks like for your chapter or colony. Again, I hope everyone is staying healthy, both you and your family. And again, really appreciate the time and looking forward to hearing from some of you either by text or via email. So thank you all. Have a wonderful rest of your night and a great rest of your week.